The Difficulty of Manyogana. In English, when we want to write the letter A, although we all have different writing styles, we all write the same two letters, lowercase or uppercase a. In Japanese, similarly, if I want to write the letter read as sa, I only have one letter to look to. If I were writing in Manyogana, however, I'd be free to use any of these characters, and to understand what I write, my reader would have to memorize all of these to read my writing. There are 19 in total. It is a phonetic writing system which has thankfully since been replaced. If you had to memorize 20 characters, all of which correspond to a single sound, it would be quite difficult to get through the whole alphabet. In this example, we have multiple characters for the character read as shi. In fact, we have 25. There are actually more. And for ha, we have 23. Just to read these two, you need to memorize more characters than there are in the entire Japanese phonetic alphabet. Furthermore, the character you see in red can be read both ways. If I wanted to write the word hashi or hashi, meaning bridge, or chopsticks depending on the context, I'd be able to choose from any of the characters above or below to produce over 500 possible combinations to write the word hashi. I'm not going to list them all here. There are a few on the right. I would need to memorize 40 characters just to read the vowels. To memorize our vowels in 3 hiragana, we have already needed to memorize over 100 characters and their pronunciations, as well as figure out contextually how to determine which reading to use. So let's say we have memorized the hundreds of Manyogana and their readings. Let's try to read an excerpt from the Manyogana. Poem number 200, written in black. All we have to do is know the sound that corresponds to each kanji, right? In actuality, it's not so simple. Outlined in red is an attempt to find the corresponding hiragana and attach to each kanji, producing gibberish, but at times no sound at all. So why are there so many more hiragana under that poem than there are kanji? The hiragana far outnumbers the Manyogana because some of these kanji produce Japanese words. They are just written in kanji, and the characters in red are the actual Manyogana. You would need to be able to determine which characters are being used for meaning and which characters are being used to produce sounds or used as particles. On the left I have listed the words. In red are the Manyogana particles, and in black are the Japanese words written in kanji. As you can see, there are only 3 instances of actual Manyogana being used here. The reader needs to identify, while reading the text, which kanji are being used as Manyogana for phonetic purposes, and which characters are used to convey an actual meaning. For example, the first red character, which looks kind of like a letter Z, is actually a possessive particle read as no, whereas the word to its left, hisakata, means sky, or more specifically, the great sky and all of the stars above. This is in contrast to modern Japanese, where we use kanji and hiragana to separate the words very clearly into whether they are being used for the meaning or for their sounds. In this example, the blue characters, the kanji, are used to convey meaning, whereas the phonetic characters are written in red, the hiragana. We do not need to search for or distinguish phonetic characters from meaning-bearing characters, as the language now does that for us. But in the past, all of these red characters could have been written in any number of kanji, and you'd have to memorize all of them to be able to read it. Oh yeah, in that poem from earlier, poem number 200 from the Manyoshu, an elegy to the dead prince Takechi no Miko, written by Kakinomoto no Hitomaro. Translated simply into English, Kakinomoto no Hitomaro is saying, while thinking of the dead prince, "Even though you are ruling over the heavens, because it is you, I will continue to admire you forever."